Welcome back to the $1 million Tipping Point podcast. Today we have Tracy Miller here, and she's going to be filling you guys with so much wisdom and so much knowledge. She has done, I keep saying so, but really she's done so much in her life, and I'm excited to dig into it. So this podcast episode is brought to you by Corporate to Contract, my business, where it is a place to go if you have corporate or office experience and want to take the skills you have and become your own boss and online contractor. If you love the podcast, don't forget to sign up for the Tipping Jar of Wisdom, where as a subscriber, you get exclusive content every Thursday straight to your inbox with actionable tasks from guests like Tracy, and it will help you grow your business. So definitely sign up. Head over and connect with me on Instagram at Virtually Kiri or LinkedIn, Kiri Mohan, and sign up in all those wonderful places, bios, etc. So Tracy, welcome. Tracy is a passionate leader of change who specializes in educating and inspiring others to live a life of authenticity and purpose. She comes from a background in organizational and leadership development, as well as real estate sales and investments. She was a top producer in her industry and led a team of 11 other agents. Tracy has a BA in psychology and decades of experience teaching and inspiring personal growth. Tracy is an obsessed beagle owner, an avid outdoor enthusiast, and a lover of adventure and travel. She is happily married to the kindest and most handsome man on the planet. Together, they have a blended family of 6 kids and a lot of love. So Tracy, thank you so much for being on our show and sharing your wisdom and knowledge, and it's good to have you here.
Thanks, Kiri. I'm so excited to be here. That was a long introduction.
It is a long introduction. I'm trying to think about how to change it, honestly. Because obviously, as the podcast is something that's a passion project, and I love sharing the knowledge that we learn from people, but it's also a little bit of a marketing tool. It's also something that drives people, I hope, to my business. Sure. So I actually had someone do a podcast audit, and they were like, it's too long in the beginning. And I was like, I know, but I want to fit so much in.
It gives a well-rounded background. I like it.
So we were talking off air a lot about your history and your past and where you are with your business. So tell us right now, what's going on with your life and where your businesses are or were.
Yeah, you bet. So I have made my millions per se in real estate sales and real estate investing. So currently right now, I basically over the course of the last 7.5 years have really fine-tuned what I enjoy doing as well as what I'm good at doing, and have made lots of changes to be where I'm at right now, which is basically just investing. Like, for example, today I'm closing on 2 new properties, and Monday another one, sold one yesterday. So I just do a lot of investing at this moment. I also sell real estate primarily as a listing agent, helping people sell their properties because I can do that remotely from anywhere in the world, literally. And I just do that for supplemental income. I'm currently saving for an airplane. So I'm like, I'm going to make sure I keep selling properties to tuck away for, for future use when I buy my plane. But I spend my days, I try to section off a third of it doing either reading, writing, podcasting. I have my own podcast as well. Something in the creative element, that side of the brain that's, the feminine energy, just to kind of keep me balanced. And then the other portion, I'm either working with my executive assistant, with my husband on one of our real estate projects, or out showing our, properties. So that's what my work life looks like now. About 3 weeks ago, I just closed down my real estate brokerage. I used to supervise 11 full-time agents, and I built that up. Last week was our 4-year anniversary. So over the course of 4 years, trained brand new agents from the ground up, turned them into very successful little agents, and decided a couple of weeks ago that that's just not in alignment with what I want to do and where my life is going. So I took a sharp pivot, closed my brokerage down, sent my little ducklings on their way to work with other brokerages. And I now have my freedom back so that I can live in alignment, good work-life balance. So that's where I'm at right now.
And what happened to your consulting business? Do you still have your consulting business, or is that something that you've also let go of?
Yeah, so still doing speaking engagements. I'm actually working on a application process right now for a TEDx talk. So I'm shifting a little bit more into the inspirational speaking realm versus consulting one-on-one. I just kind of discovered that the one-on-one stuff for me was also, it was very similar to running a brokerage. It made me so accountable to other people on a full-time basis that's really what I'm trying to venture away from right now after the years of building my business and being like full-time accountable to the business, to people. I just need a break from that. So working on more of the creative stuff, more of the speaking engagements, less consulting.
And you said you're trying to get into the inspirational speaking, which I would love to talk about your past if you're open to it. It's
Sure.
I did this whole research on you, like 10 years in corrections with the state government. Then you went to 3 years as a training specialist, 2 years in corporate HR investigations or as a corporate HR investigator. Then you went on to real estate and you're consulting. That, first of all, what's a HR investigator?
Yeah. So the worst job in the world. So in my job in corrections, I did some investigations for, criminal disciplinary type of things. So I had that background. And then I got hired to do basically sexual discrimination, any kind of discrimination, sexual harassment, workplace, anything that's illegal in the workplace. I had to do the investigations to play the liaison between management and the employees. So like literally everybody hated me. Management hated me because they were in trouble. Employees hated me because I was management. It was a terrible place to be.
You were only there 2 years. So
2 years.
You got out of there quickly.
Real
So
quick.
tell us a little bit about your past, because I saw you got pregnant in college, married at 19. You were divorced at 21. You had a third daughter, another failed marriage, Army Reserves. There's a lot in your past that could speak to our audience and how you got to where you are. So there's no way to siphon it down into something short. So feel free to go on as long as you want, but give us a little bit of your background and your career.
Yeah. You bet. I'll hit the high points. So got pregnant right directly out of high school, actually. So I was 18, had my daughter when I was 19, married my high school. He was older than me, but we got married right when I got pregnant. And we had 2 kiddos together, got divorced. And so it was with my 2 daughters, started in corrections at that point because I needed the insurance. I needed the benefits, as a parent. So started down that path. I had no interest in it. It was just good pay for my area and it was security for my kiddos. And then realized I needed more, and you can climb and you can promote in all of these government type positions, but really it's like a 50-cent raise. It's a new title that doesn't do much for you except give you more responsibilities and 50 cents more. So I realized I needed to do more to get these promotions to even be eligible. So I started my college education. I've got like you said, a bachelor's in psychology because I thought I was maybe going to use it for counseling. I'm actually a semester short of a master's degree. I was going to be a counselor, and I just realized quickly that was not the space I wanted to be in. So anyway, finished my college degree, and in the course of that shifted over. I was promoted through corrections and I got into training, and that's really where my personal growth took off, because I was writing curriculum for new employees and got into leadership and got into reading about everything self-improvement, personal development. And I read all of the books, just every book I could. I was a sponge for this personal development knowledge. And from there, of course, continued to promote, got into speaking at that time because I had written some curriculum that went across the nation, and I was able to present it at a couple conferences, which was amazing, and promoted again into different positions where I also got to speak. And I loved speaking. It was like my favorite thing. It was like exhilarating. But at that age, I was probably 25 at that time. Wow. And I had a severe case of imposter syndrome because I'm thinking, I am 25 years old and I'm up here on a stage. One of them was an international level stage talking to women about empowerment. And I'm thinking, I'm 25. Who am I to give these speeches? So suffered tremendously from imposter syndrome and started chasing the almighty dollar instead of what I really loved to do. I thought about venturing into consulting and doing speaking at that time, but again, the imposter syndrome got me down. So then I shifted and just kept chasing the higher pay raise, the higher promotions, whatever. Made it to I was the training officer for the Montana Law Enforcement Academy for corrections. So that's your retirement job. That's like the ultimate job that you can get in that field, because you're training every new professional that hits the industry with the state of Montana. And I was doing that at 27 years old. So again, a little bit of imposter syndrome, and just decided, I love this field. I love teaching. I love all of this, but it's not going to get me vacations with my kids. It's not going to get me job, like where I felt like I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. So then I delved into corporate world, because I was told you can work, they'll pay you for your worth. You can work salary and they'll give you bigger amounts, and you can travel more and you can have more freedom. And at that time, I was really recognizing I wanted life balance and alignment with all this hard work and this effort. It had to be for something, right? And that's not true. They just made me work more and gave me a 50 cent or a dollar raise and just kept loading me with work. So shifted out of that and into real estate, which is where my eyes were wide open into the freedom, the opportunity, the potential, just the endless, like busting through the glass ceiling per se, like being able to do that as a business owner is phenomenal. But very important to know that I would have never been as successful as I was with my business if I had started that at 25, because I didn't have all of those life experiences, those humbling, crappy jobs, those, the discipline going through college, the network that I built up of people that trusted me as a professional. And in the middle of there too, I also joined the Army Reserves because I was trying to get student loans paid off, and also to honor my grandpa, who was the only family member that had served. And I did that for 3 years and ended up having to get out because of my family care plan failed, because I was non-deployable because I didn't have anybody to take care of my kids if I left. So, but did that too. And also, the resiliency and the ability to look into your situation and know that it's temporary and that you can make it through any hard times, because, I've done this before. I went 6 months without my kids and etc. So that is that. And real estate is where I'm at now. And that's where my success that's where my financial success started. So
I read somewhere that you came to a point in your own life where you decided that you had to make a change personally within, and it was a lot of work, and it didn't happen overnight. But talk to us a little bit about that internal change. And you mentioned imposter syndrome a few times, but I don't know when that was in your career or how it related to your personal life. But why did that happen? And what was that work that you had to do because I'm sure that took you to the next level personally and with your career.
Yeah, they always align, always. If you improve yourself, your professional follows. But so 2 different times in my life, I would say I had upgrades, is what I like to say. And the first one was when I got that training job, and my personal life was such a mess because I had, I was very codependent, had kind of a messy, a child of adults, or I was an adult child of alcoholics. So I had kind of a not chaotic, just, it's just, that's what happens when you're raised by functioning alcoholics. And I had some codependency issues with my personal relationships. And I just realized, I'm like, man, I am the common denominator of every one of these failed relationships. I'd been divorced twice by then. And I'm putting my kids through this. I'm like, I have just got to become a better person so that I can meet a better companion down the road, etc. And that's when I really dived into everything self-improvement, personal development. I read the 5 love languages, just everything I could get my hand on to just improve me. And I did. I made huge efforts, and I also discovered fitness at that time. I got really, really into, I did a lot of running at the time, and then I switched over, did bodybuilding. Actually, I did a couple shows. It was terrible. But the discipline that you're putting in, the effort, the work, all that is just paramount with being able to keep the rest of your life on track. I mean, if you can control your food intake, you can control showing up at the gym every day, twice a day, doing what is prescribed in order to reach this goal, you can apply any formula anywhere. It just takes the self-discipline and the resiliency to get through it. So got really into backpacking, really into hiking. And when I got into nature and mountain biking, I got out into nature. And then I had kind of this a little bit of a spiritual connection to all of that as well, where I really learned to love solitude, being alone, being depending on myself and myself only. I didn't need companionship. I didn't need anybody else there. And I really broke that habit of codependency, and my life just accelerated through the roof, because that's that imposter syndrome. I mean, it really melted away because it was me growing myself inside and knew that I was capable, that I was able, that I was everything that I needed in order to do what I wanted to do in life. So that was number one, or the first time. And then I had that second growth just recently. And that was more probably more of a spiritual alignment as well, to just discover that, like, oh my gosh, I have done these amazing things in life. I've had great success. We're, multimillionaire, financially free. Like I could retire right now and just not work, but it's not what I want to do. But in the midst of that, it's like, oh my God, I've done all of this. And what do I have to show for it? Like, my life got so out of balance with work that my personal life, it wasn't necessarily suffering, but I just wasn't fulfilled because I wasn't able to do the things that I loved in life, which was backpacking, mountain biking, working out, spending time with my kids. Like, those are traveling, like those are all the things that I love to do. And I couldn't even take a vacation because I was so consumed in my business that, something needed to change again, which is where I took my next shift and made some drastic changes, which we can talk about that whenever too.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that. I was going to ask if it was hard, if there was a struggle leading up to it, and what that looked like for you, and what it feels like when you realize you came to the place that you're like, I do need to kind of shut this down, or not shut it down, but like, send it off with my 11 agents and be good with that and be okay.
Yeah, it was extremely hard emotionally, mentally, because the outside world doesn't understand what's going on inside. And I am an extremely intuitive person. I've built my businesses. All of my successes have come from following my inner guide and my intuition. And when that intuition is telling me it's time for something else, and the outside world is screaming at you that you're making a huge mistake, which, mind you, that same outside world screamed that when I was taking the leap into real estate. They're like, you're crazy. You need stability. You need to make sure that your kids have checks every week, that you need to have the insurance for that. That same outside entity is then screaming at me not to leave real estate. They're like, Tracy, you're like so good at this. Why would you do this? Like, anybody would kill to have the success you've had. How could you? And I'm like, well, because that same guide inside of me that told me I could do it is now telling me it's time to go on and do something else. So very scary. And also, like, the ego is so attached to that identity and to that success, and to my entire life is built around this. And now all of a sudden I'm not going to be a real estate broker who owns Butte Real Estate Group anymore. Now I'm going to be what? I don't know, And so it's like literally taking your entire identity, stripping it off of yourself, setting it out for the world to criticize, to critique, to make opinions on publicly, to my face, whatever. And they see it as failure. And you just have to stay true to yourself to know that this is not failure. This is pivoting into something else, taking all of that knowledge, all of those experiences, all of those success principles that I've learned and utilized over the past however many years. And now I'm going to apply those to something else in life. And I've got full faith, 100% certainty that what I apply that to is going to also be successful, and just shutting the outside world off.
Yeah. It's interesting because I feel like this intuitive led mindset and business way of running a business, if more people listen to their intuition, they would probably get a lot further, because I think that struggle that people deny and ignore is
Yeah.
actually like their intuition. They're saying like, you need to go in a different direction. This no longer serves you, whatever this business is. And
Yep.
it can be hard, especially in loved ones close to you too. Because like, what are you doing? Are you sure you want to do that thing over there for free? And you're working so hard on it. And is anyone buying it? And are you sure? And it's just like, but I believe this is
Yeah.
what I need to do.
Yeah.
And I think women would be in a much better place with businesses and be a lot more successful, because I think women have a hard time. Like we are very led by our intuition. We're very led by our heart, but then we can just downright ignore it for a long time too and
Huge.
give up easily. And I think if more women paid attention to that and realized everything was going to be okay and they can figure it
Yes.
out, just
Yes.
follow what your calling is, or whatever that calling is to you,
Yeah.
we'd have more business owners and more successful women business owners.
Yeah, they're a lot of them, myself included. I had to grow through this too, but they're so easy to take opinions of others that are the experts. I always
Mm.
advise people to just, be very cautious of who you're giving an expert label to. Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean they're a good doctor. Just because that's a police officer doesn't mean that they're a safe and integrity-filled police officer. Those are just examples of like experts in our society. But the same applies to like business owners, who like, why, I don't remember who said it, but I read it in a book or something. And they said, why would you ever would you take advice from your, I don't know, dad who's never run a business? Would you take advice from your best friend who has had 6 failed businesses on not starting a business? Because if they've had an experience where their business failed, they're going to tell you, oh my gosh, don't do that. It's not safe. It's whatever. But would you take their advice, or would you find somebody that has done it well, and also has the life elements, like the personal life balance? I'm huge on that. Like their entire life, not just their business is successful, but are they happy in life? And those are the people that you want to mentor or have mentor you or follow after, because they've done it right. But you've got to be super careful to find those people that are authentic and true to themselves too, because a lot of them will say that their life is amazing and everything is great, but underneath it's like, no, their business is consuming them. And so pick your mentors very wisely.
And we see it totally on social media. That's a big problem, where people are like, this is my life. It's so great. And like, everything seems perfect on the outside, but they're like hustling and like just so burned out. And we have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was me. I mean, that was totally me. But I didn't realize it either, because success is laid out to us financially. People are like, you're successful if you reach 7 figures. You're successful if you become number 1 in your market, whatever that society's indicator of success. And really, you got to have a come to Jesus meeting with yourself and sit down and decide what your level of success is. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, every real estate agent chases transactions, like the number of sales, the number of commissions, and that's your indicator. So therefore, I'm not successful unless I surpass everybody else's dollars, right? And then I got to realize, I'm like, no, success for me in the beginning was if I could replace my income that I had in my employee job and be able to have the freedom of being my own business owner. That was success for me, but I lost myself in that rat race. And before you knew it, it's like I had surpassed those goals like 10 times over, and then had nothing to show for it in terms of enjoyment and joy and travel and all these things. So like my success factor, like to know that I have been successful, is that I can give back to others with my time, with my money. I can spend time with my kids and never miss anything that's important to them. And that I can spend time doing what I love in life. And that's outside of work, like hiking, or, I wish I could paint. I can't. Playing a guitar, I wish I could. I can't yet. But having time to dedicate to do those things that inspire your heart, that help you grow as an individual, that sparks your business and the community around you too.
One thing I think to add to that is, not everything needs to be rushed. When people are starting businesses or doing businesses, they just want to keep up with the person that they're looking at ahead of them, right? And they just want to rush and they want to be there. And it's like, take what you need to do. Like, I mean, keep working on it if that's your soul and your passion and that's what you want to do. Keep working on it every day. Move the needle a little bit, but you don't need to rush. If you wake up and feeling like you just can't do it that day, fine. you know?
Sure.
It's like there's this weird guilt, I think, that comes with it when people think they're not getting success fast enough, whatever that
Yes.
means to them, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point of my podcast too, is to show that there's more than just like being a 7-figure business owner, than thinking like, I want to dig deeper and say like, it's not just like, hey, look at her, she's making millions. Like, really, what does it look like? And so let's
Right.
kind of talk about that. So
Yeah.
when you were running your real estate business, do you think between spending money and making money, what did it kind of look like with your team? And you had this 7-figure business. What was the percentage of what you took home versus what you spent on expenses and hiring and all of that?
Yeah, sure. So my realization to let my team go came down to that exact factor. It's like
Mm.
my amount of time invested and the amount of money that was coming back and the amount of satisfaction that was coming back, the ROI, the return on that investment was way low for running my team. So that's why I decided to let that go, because the actual money, my millions, came from real estate investing. And it's not a solo job. It's definitely not a solo job, but I don't need a huge team for that. So the real estate brokerage ownership end of things was, I mean, so all of my people were brand new. The amount of time that was invested into them was, I mean, astronomical, because my identity and my pride and my heart was poured into them and wanting to see them be successful. And then I took a cut from their sales, which it takes time for them to get up to sell and start making money for themselves. So, 25 to 35% of their checks came back into that business, which was called Butte Real Estate Group. Well, then that amount of money, because we're a new business and we're startup, and we have to have brand awareness and we have to have all of this marketing that that goes out. The amount of expenses was at 75 to 80% in comparison to the amount of profit that was coming in. Well, it's a startup, so I actually didn't take any cuts. I didn't take any money, no payout whatsoever from that business until the last 6 months of ownership.
Wow.
Yeah, because I wanted to have a nest egg put into that. But in real estate, you don't get your real estate license and open a brokerage. I mean, you've got to sell first. So my sales was a huge part too. I used to make, like, my take home on average after expenses was around 350 to 500,000 annually on sales, but the actual amount that was brought in was probably 600,000 to 700,000. But you're expensing a whole bunch of that out, with travel and all sorts of other things too. So the bulk of my income and where we made millions was off of our properties, because we would take and purchase $45,000 properties, $100,000 properties, dump in do complete rehab on them. And then we hold them. We sold a couple of them in order to turn around and do the same thing. But for example, the one that I just sold, and we're closing on it today, we bought 3 properties in exchange for that one property after we finished it. So we just buy one, add value to it, sell it, or you can refinance it and then put that money into buying 2 or 3 more properties. There's huge tax write-offs that offset my income that I made from sales. It kind of brought that down a little bit. And then also we have monthly income that comes in from those properties. After we renovate them, we rent them. And, we usually make, 5 to anywhere between 500,000 on ones we have mortgages on, up to $15,000 to $2,000 a month on ones that we don't have. And then those properties appreciated from 40 to 50,000 when we purchased them, up to 450,000 after we've renovated them. So that's where the bulk of my income came from. And I retained when I shut my brokerage down, I retained my executive assistant to keep her, because I just adore her and can't stand to let her go. So I look for things to give her to work. And she helps me manage those properties. She helps me interview those tenants. She helps me do design and planning. And when we find a new property, I run it by her first to make sure it's a good investment, because my intuition says yes. And then she's kind of my checks or balance to say, okay, Tracy, this is an emotional decision, or we've been here before. This doesn't look good, or heck yeah, let's do it. So she's my checks and balances always.
I have two ways I want to go with this. I'll start with my first question. What was the worst investment you've ever made, do you think?
Ooh, the worst investment. I would say, I don't know. It's arguable. I mean, I would say I've never had a bad investment, just because of the market that I've been in has been so healthy that it's been difficult to have a bad investment right now. But I would say I bought this commercial building, and I went away from my own intuition on that building. I did it more on ego, I think, because at the time our uptown, or it should be our downtown business district, is really starting to thrive in the community that we're in. And everyone was wanting to invest in Uptown Butte. And I kind of knew that wasn't my spot, my place. Something about it was like, yeah, it just doesn't feel like that's where I want to be. But everyone, quote unquote, air quotes, was doing it. And I'm like, yeah. So I found this building, and it was, I think we paid $260,000 for it. And we were going to do these lofts upstairs and do these really luxury Airbnbs, which would have been great and it would have been fine. But the main level was commercial space. And I don't like commercial. It's never sat right with me because there's no intuition in it. You go to get a tenant and you're like, oh, I feel like they're going to be great. No, it's all numbers. It's all down to profit, and there's no emotion or feel or humanity in it. And it was a bad choice for me because I'm going to pick tenants. I started to pick tenants the way that I would pick a residential tenant, and it just doesn't fly. And the first guy's business that I put in there failed. And so then we were stuck with having no tenant with this big renovation. So we basically would be having all these holding costs and this probably $200,000 to $300,000 budget for renovation with no income coming in. So I ended up just bailing on the project. Again, could have been looked at as a failure, but it was a pivot. We bought 2 other residential properties that we are madly in love with in place of that one. So it's a win.
It's interesting because you said, you felt something was off and you weren't following your intuition there. And it's like, it seems like usually you're just spot on with it, but in that instance, the one worst investment that you think of. Yeah.
Yeah. I got cold feet going into it, and I'm like, oh, I probably shouldn't do this, but the pride was there, and others were so excited about the property, and it just didn't feel, it wasn't right.
So let's go and then talk about a little bit, you love your EA. What are some mistakes or challenges you've had when hiring, and what advice can you have for those who are looking to hire?
Absolutely. So I think we are naturally drawn to hire people that are like us, and we're naturally drawn to hire people just on skills that they put on the resume, the application, etc. We always sat down and interviewed people first by, first thing I do is I scan obsessively over social media, because I really feel like their true person comes out in social media. So the first thing, and
very true.
it's like a diary. And if I see people that have any kind of pessimism, negativity in their feed, any of the victim stance, oh, the world's against me, poor me, out immediately. Just that is, they are not my people. I will not associate with those people in any way, shape, or form. So then the second thing, they're a good fit on paper. They're a good fit on social media, personality wise. Bring them in, interview them. My assistant and I used to sit down and interview them first. And if we got a good feel for them, again, kind of the criteria that I was always looking for in real estate agents was, I think that, a monkey can sell real estate. Like, it's sales is sales is sales. It is what it is, but it's that mindset underneath. So we were looking for people that met our core values, and being very crystal clear on what your core values as a company are. First, if you don't have those, you can't do that, right? So we had to know what we were building, what we stood for, what was important and paramount and just non-negotiable for us. And so then we hired to those core values, and we'd ask questions that would lead around to showing whether somebody really did value their community. And I should be able to see if they've, for example, value their community, because it's probably in their social media somewhere, or it's something that they pride themselves on. So always hired to core values. And then after that, it was just, are they a good human being? Because I can teach people skills, a lot of them, not like I don't know that you can really teach somebody interpersonal skills. So I'm looking for people that love self-development, that love personal development, that are big readers, that are into that type of stuff, because that stuff I can't teach them. You've got to go on that journey on your own. And then after that, if they're a good human being, then they've got good morals, they've got integrity. I can't teach those things. So those were the main things that I did. And then after Jackie, my assistant, and I decided that they were a good fit, we sat them down in front of the entire team and they got to weigh in. And we usually played games, like we would do Pictionary, we would play whatever odd games, just to see how they interacted and how they, had fun.
I was just thinking, because my family, it can get quite nasty with Pictionary. I wanted to play Pictionary this year for my birthday because we haven't played it in so long and no one would play with me. So I guess I probably would not be hired by you.
Bummer, no. You could come. And that's just it. Can they get playful? Are they hyper competitive where they're gonna, like cut others down and for their own gain? It was a nice observation method for us. And then most importantly, though, the rest of my team got to vote them on or off. We always had the final say, but we never ever had to override anything, because we're huge believers in protecting our culture, because culture is what makes people stay. And we had amazing retention. Like we had hardly any turnover whatsoever, because I feel like we had such a great culture. And the testament to that is when we did close our doors. I mean, it's tears, it's everybody's sad. And there was a couple that were like, we just can't find anything to replace this family, this culture. So we hired, those were our main things that we hired to. As for the assistant, though, it was different. I wanted to hire somebody like me, because it's like, they're going to be an extension of me. They've got to be like me to be able to do what I can't do, or what I don't have enough time to do. But I learned that and this was accidental. I learned that you have to hire your opposite. I am the visionary. I am the big picture thinker. My mind is out at, what do they say, 100,000 view or something like that. That's where my mind is at all the time, where my assistant is grounded and she's my anchor and she's pulling me down from the clouds. And she's like, that's great, but first we have to do the job. And so she's like doing tasks for me. I talk about hiring for your excellence rather than your genius, so that you can do your genius. And I may be good at real estate contracts. I may be good at doing admin things. I may be good at marketing. I love marketing. It was so hard to give marketing up, because I am good at marketing, but my genius is the visionary, is the big picture thinking, is leading. And that my time spent doing that, my genius activities, was limited because I was trying to hang on to things that I was good at, great at, or excellent at. So my assistant, I hired the things that I'm maybe good at or really suck at. And she, obviously she's also good at some things that I'm excellent in or that I'm great at. And those are the tasks that I give to her so that I can focus on my genius stuff instead. And by the way, her things, the tasks that she that she does, that's her genius. I mean, like admin, caring, compassionate. I mean, she was the person for our business that people could come to when they were upset, when they were feeling down. Like she was that mama bear that was like, oh, it's going to be okay. let's have a little pep talk, where for me, it's like, ooh, it's not my strong suit. You're going to be fine. Tap, tap. Let's do this,
So. Can you lay out the steps you used to grow your business from, 6 figures whenever you got there to 7 figures? And what do you think was the most important action item you took to grow to 7 figures?
Yeah. So I would say, so the steps to getting there for me were constantly assessing for new opportunities and better opportunities. Because reminder, let's talk, we'll do the sales aspect first, because I think that that's probably more relevant to your listeners. But starting out, I had a huge network, and in sales for me is people work. I told all my agents this, they want to know you, like you, and trust you. So first and foremost for me was getting people to know me. And that was branding, marketing. I mean, I just smeared my name. I smeared everything all over the place so that people knew I existed. And with that, they know that I'm out there, and I'm not making a ton of money at this point in sales because people don't trust me for sure, because I'm brand spanking new. So then the next step would be getting them to like me. And when I worked in sales, I highly believe that if people don't like you, they're not going to work with you. If you are, if you're difficult, if you're not real personable, if your personality doesn't come out, like, why would they want to work with you in sales when they could find somebody else that's also good at sales, but they're more enjoyable to be around? So I really, really focused on my clients getting to know me and like me. And that doesn't mean like do things so that they like me. Like, I wasn't people pleasing. I was just allowing my authenticity and my true self to come out. I was fun to go show with. I got to know their family. I got to know I took a real interest in their lives. After the sale, I still sent them little goodies and, Christmas cards and anniversary cards, and left little care packages on their front porch, things that were really personal to me, that I remembered that we had this bond and this connection, and that created my referral base. So from about the second year of business on, because that's when I started my brokerage, was at year 2. All my marketing went into my brokerage, not me. I didn't have to do any marketing whatsoever for myself as a real estate agent, because all of my business was referral based. And at that point, people know me, they like me, and they trust me. So they're passing my name off to anybody and everybody that they can, because what I did for them, or for their mom, their sister, their best friend, their coworker, that became this network of one sale created 10 more, because I'm being passed out to all these other people. And then I took care of everybody that sent me a referral. I made sure to send them a handwritten note and a thank you and a little gift, a coffee. And if I could meet them for coffee just to say thanks, to keep that connection together, I would. And that is when I loved real estate. That was the best time, because it was genuine, it was authentic, it was getting to know people, and I had such great connections with them and their families. And then I scaled and I left that behind, because then I'm building my brokerage, where I'm investing instead into my people, my agents, and teaching them how to do that. But then I lost the ability to have that connection with my own clients, and it got to where I was just making money in order to feed the machine, which the machine then is the brokerage, to keep it going and growing. And that's kind of where things went wrong. And I wouldn't say, I mean, they didn't go wrong, but it killed the joy. And I scaled, but I shifted and scaled into a brokerage, thinking that my sales, I'm one person, I can only do this many, but if I create 11 more people that can do the same thing I did, and I'm taking a cut, theoretically, there should be more money coming in on that. And with time, that would have happened, and that would have been true. That's how I scaled. But the joy wasn't there. The alignment wasn't there. I liked this level. This is what I really enjoyed doing. So that's why I let this part go. And for those that are listening and can't see my Italian hand movements, this is the brokerage. I let the brokerage and the team and the scalability aspect of real estate go, and I'm shifting back to just selling, which is enjoyable, and for me, investing in real estate, which that's where the money was at for me anyway. Yeah,
I had I don't know if our listeners know this, but when I started off as a VA a while ago, I ended up going into an agency. Same reason, like, I can get more money this way. And I think that was my only reason. And also it was like, I'd capped out, like there wasn't any more clients I could take on by myself. I think a year later, I burned it to the ground. I was like, this is not for me. Not only is it like, it's a little different from what you're talking about, but like there was a reputation aspect, right? Like these people, some of them just weren't as good as what I was doing at, my skill set. And then there's also a lot of management and a lot of time and a lot of effort put into managing client relationships, managing the subcontractors. And I just didn't like it. Just even thinking about it, I'm like getting like, oh no,
yeah.
I didn't want to do that.
what you're describing right now, just thinking about it makes me, that is passed on to your clients. And then your time and your energy spent with those people is affected, and your home life is affected because that energy is coming out because you're just not fulfilled and happy inside. And that's that intuition that people need to stay in alignment with. And if you don't, if you just keep chasing the dollars, because that's what everybody else is doing, that's where you land, and your business starts to spiral down, down, because you're just not giving 100% because your energy is off. That's my thoughts.
So, where do you think you see your business going in the next 5 years? Well, I guess I can't even say business, but like what you're doing in your life right now. It sounds like you want to buy a plane. Now, do you mean like a plane, like I don't know what they're called. I don't know anything about planes, but there's planes. We have an Air Force base near us, but there's, I'm pointing out my window. There are planes that go by that are like the little like propeller planes.
A little puddle jumper.
They're like so cute, and they're kind of lower to the ground. And then I'm like, there's also like, you could buy a private jet. So what are you referring to? Like
totally a small little single engine to start with, and it's just something that, like a 4-seater that I could take friends, family, because I'm working on my pilot's license. And that's my goal for quote unquote retirement, is to be able to bypass all of the travel restrictions and be able to take my dogs. As you said in my introduction, I've got 3 beagles and I can't take them on planes. So I go somewhere and I have to drive if they're going to come with me. And I want to work up to being able to fly my dogs with me. And so back to the initial question, like where I see things going is I'm at this very transformational time in my life where I am financially free enough to do what I want. And I'm still in that discovery phase of what it is that I want to do. So I am delving into anything and everything to just experiment and see if it brings me joy. And if it brings me joy and it's something that I'm passionate about and I feel like it's something I want to pursue, then that's what I'm doing. And right now it's flying and speaking. I really love both of those. With the flying component, I'm like, man, when I'm here in another 5 or 10 years, maybe I will start a pet transportation business and be able to go, I would upgrade to a multi-engine plane at that point and maybe take people's dogs from mainland to Hawaii, mainland to Latin America, because those are things that people move there all the time, or they go for 3-month stays and they want to bring their pets, but it's really hard to find transportation for that. And I love pets. I want to fly and I love those places. So again, if I can combine my joys with business and make every trip to Hawaii and every trip to Costa Rica a tax write-off, you betcha I'm going to do it that way. So that's how my brain works, is looking for tax write-offs and ways to expense, which is why also my business went from, 700 commission, 600 commission down to 300 commission, because I expense so much by being able to combine my personal life with my work life. So maybe something like that, but in the midst of that, for the next 5 years, my daughter is still at home. So I'm still physically stationed in one spot, and I like to travel in between when my daughter is with her dad. I like to take our Sprinter van, and we've got a place in Arizona that we're closing on today, Monday. So just to be able to kind of go back and forth between those places. And I'm working on building up, like I said, my speaking engagement business to do inspirational speaking, so that women like your audience can know that anything is possible and build up a career based on traveling and speaking and inspiring and giving back to others.
I love it. And you do have such an inspiring story. So I think you would get booked out, I think.
Thank you. I will make sure I put that on my resume.
What advice do you have for other women as they grow their business and want to hit 7 figures? And why do you think some women don't make it there or hit roadblocks?
Yeah, sure. Definitely be true to you. 100% set goals for yourself based on your own values. If you don't know what you value, that's step 1, is to sit down and analyze that. And I really liked how you talked about the speed in which people get places, keeping in mind that I built my business. Like I went from being an employee to multimillionaire in 7 years, but that didn't happen in 7 years. That happened back to day one with my very first job, because every single job that I had, every single book that I picked up and read, every experience that I put myself through was something that fed into the success of my business, because your interpersonal skills are what make you successful as a business, I think, more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a spot right now where, oh my gosh, I'd love to have the physical freedom, the time freedom, I could do that if you can, there's always something you can be doing. You can pick up a book and read something, put knowledge in your head, have other experiences that are going to put you in a better position down the road, build skills now that you'll be able to implement later on in life. Because that's what feeds into it. And I think, women that are not successful, that have roadblocks, I don't know if it's even relevant specifically to women, but I just think that people give into fear. I mean, fear, it holds you back because they're so afraid of taking risk. Like maybe they're comfortable right now, and the next level requires them to sacrifice time, or it requires them to sacrifice comfort for a while, meaning like, ooh, I'm going to have to not go out to eat. I'm going to have to not spend any time doing other things. Like there's sacrifices that are going to have to be made, and there's a risk that comes with it. But if you're putting your full heart into it, like I don't think people can fail. They just have to see those opportunities and jump on them the moment that they present themselves. Do it fearlessly. And my motto on that has always just been go forth and conquer. Like just do it forward.
Oh, I like it. Go forth and conquer.
Yeah.
That's good. Because I asked that question, what is one philosophy mantra you try to run your business by? I ask that every single guest. Mm-hmm. And it's rare that I get the same answer. I think only once I got something similar, but go forth and conquer. I haven't heard that one, obviously. But yeah,
just do it forward. Just go. Jump off the cliff, build the wings as you're falling. That's been my motto from day one. And you don't always land exactly where you think you're jumping off this cliff and you think you're going to land, at a certain spot, and you may land over another valley or gully or whatever, but you still land and you get experience. If you've got a failure or a setback, it's not that. It's just another learning experience that you take and you build upon and go forth and conquer.
I like it. All right. So where can we find you? Share if our audience wants to connect with you, has questions or anything like that, where can they find you?
Yeah. So the best spot would probably be, we didn't talk much about that, but I have a podcast and it's all on purpose and doing things that are fulfilling in your life. Most of them are business oriented, and that's called Clock Out, the Vicarious Life. And the website is www.clockoutvicariouslife.com. Also on Facebook, and that's Clock Out TVL on Facebook and on Instagram. You can find me on social. You can look me up on my regular name as well. I'm on personal. My profile's open, and you can creep on me and check things out all you want.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this interview, Tracy. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It was an honor.
If you are listening and you're part of our audience and you found what Tracy said to be informative and valuable, please help us grow the show by sharing it with someone else who might really find what she says informative and valuable. So again, you can find me on LinkedIn or tag me on Instagram at Virtually Curie, and go forth and conquer everyone's. And please sign up for the newsletter where you can get the exclusive content questions we're going to be going over with Tracy.